There is so much misinformation out there on social media about how to reveal your abs, how to train your abs. And in this video, I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide on what you actually need to do to reveal your abs and also how to train them. If you haven't been to the channel before, welcome. My name is Ryan. I'm an ex-NRL player, online coach, and natural bodybuilder. And this channel is all about how to find the most efficient way to help you lose fat and build muscle. As I said, so much misinformation out there on social media talking about doing hundreds of crunches a day, crazy ab workouts, all these exotic exercises that you might not even have the equipment for. And realistically, none of this is necessary to be able to reveal your abs. Okay, and that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. We're talking about the two main steps that you need to follow to be able to reveal your abs. First thing, you need to build your abs up. Okay, so we're going to build your muscles bigger of your abdominals so that the muscle is going to push through the fat and push against the skin, which is what makes them look more defined and obviously reveals them more so it looks like you have that six-pack look. Okay, also you want to be reducing the amount of body fat. Now, everyone has a six-pack. Okay, everyone has those muscles there. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do this. Okay, that is what your six-pack does. It actually flexes the spine. Okay, so if you can flex the spine, you have a six-pack, all right? But some people have a little bit more body fat covered over it than other people, okay? That is why you can't see the six-pack abs. So for the majority of you guys watching, it may be to the point where you need to reduce the amount of body fat that is covering your abs. Again, while simultaneously building that muscle, because at the end of the day, if you have a bigger six-pack belly, if you have a bigger six-pack muscle, you are actually going to have more revealing abs at a higher body fat percentage, okay? Now, I like to think about the painting a wall analogy. Okay, so as I said, we've got two main things that we can do for revealing the abs. Now, this goes for any body part as well. So if you want to tone your arms, tone your legs, whatever the case may be, you want to look leaner in those certain areas, you want to follow these two things that I'm talking about, okay, which is building muscle and also losing fat. So if you were to think about covering a wall in paint, okay, you can do two things to make sure that you don't cover all of that wall in paint. And one of those things is build the wall bigger. Make a bigger surface area for the paint to cover, okay? And the second thing is reducing the amount of paint you have. So just like you reduce body fat, okay, reduce the paint so you can't cover all the wall, okay? That goes the same with our muscles. If we have a high body fat percentage, we've got more body fat covering the muscles, so therefore we look less defined. But if we build the wall out, we're going to have more surface area for the body fat to cover, so therefore you're going to look a bit more toned. So what you want to do is you want to build muscle whilst losing body fat, which is going to allow you to look more defined and, as I said, more toned. Okay, so we're going to be doing both of these things at the same time. Now, a couple of myths that we're going to cover is the first one is spot reduction. Okay, it's too many times I see people in the gym wanting to get six-pack abs and all they're doing is crunches. Okay, you can't spot reduce. Analogy I like to think of is the bathtub analogy. Say you fill up a bathtub with water. Okay, and for some reason you don't like water on your feet. I don't know, maybe you don't like warm feet or something like that. And you try to scoop out water from where your feet are. We know that the water is going to decrease the whole bathtub and not just in that certain area. Same thing happens when you are reducing your body fat. Okay, you can't reduce from a certain area by doing a specific exercise, following a specific protocol. Okay, you can't reduce from that specific area. Your body reduces body fat from everywhere. Okay, just like if you were to scoop out of the bathtub in a specific area, it would just reduce the level of the bathtub. Okay, so we need to be remembering this when it comes to hearing these myths about spot reduction and doing these things to make your area toned or leaner or whatever the case may be. We know that it is a myth. Granted, though, some people have a genetic predisposition, which is going to make it easier for them to potentially have abs at a higher body fat. So for me, I have quite lean extremities, okay? So I could be up around sort of 20%, and I can still have a bit of veins in my arms and my legs to stay pretty lean, because I carry a lot more body fat around my midsection. So for me to be able to reveal my abs, I have to get down to around sort of like 11 to 10%, even like sort of maybe around 12% before I start actually seeing my abs come out. Whereas the rest of my body is super, super lean by that point. Like I've got veins running through my shoulders and everywhere. But for me to be able to get to revealing my abs, I need to get down to a quite lean level of body fat. Whereas other people might have a bit of more even distribution throughout their body of that body fat. So maybe they might be at 15%, but because they hold fat in their extremities, they might actually have more visible abs than myself at 15% body fat. So this is something that you need to take into account as well, and something that I think people get confused about when it comes to getting six-pack abs, and that for some people it may be a little bit easier because they don't have to get to such a low body fat percentage than other people. Some people, it might actually be a real struggle, and that's something that you have to weigh up individually if it's actually worth going pursuing that route, because it may be a little bit more difficult in the way of like hunger and stuff like that and energy, because you have to get down to such a low body fat. But as I said, everyone has the ability to do it. It's just about how much body fat you actually have to lose and what percentage you have to get down to be able to reveal them. And that's why we should build the muscle at the same time, because it's going to enable us to reveal our abs more at a higher body fat percentage if we have bigger abs. Now, it's not going to mean that you can go from, instead of revealing your abs at 10%, to growing your abs out to the point where you can reveal them at 20%. That's not going to happen. It's more likely going to be you revealed them at 10%, now you might at 11 or 12. Okay, so if you build your abs a little bit more. So it's not going to be something that's going to be a complete game changer for you guys building it. Majority of you guys will have to be thinking about getting into a decent calorie deficit and losing a decent amount of body fat. Okay, so as I said, progressive overload, building muscle, reducing body fat, making sure that we're following a diet and increasing our daily activity. So how do we actually train our abs? How do we get them bigger? Okay, we want that bigger, thicker look. We want to be able to see our abs at a higher body fat percentage. How do we train them? Well, we know from talking about it before that we don't want to do hundreds of reps. Realistically, we train them the same as what we do our bicep. Okay, so we don't do hundreds of reps for our bicep curl. We don't do isolation holds like you would when you're doing a plank. Okay, you want to take it through eccentric, concentric motion, so up and down. Make sure we're getting the contraction, making sure we're getting a full range of motion, taking that muscle through a full range to apply tension to the whole muscle. Okay, and the main function of your six pack, which is called your rectus abdominis, the main function of this is, as I said, to go into spinal flexion. Now, we can do this by reducing the gap between the pelvis and the ribs. Okay, so we can either bring the ribs down to the pelvis, or we can bring the pelvis up to the ribs. Now, you would see this if you're doing a leg raise. Okay, you'd be bringing the pelvis up to the ribs. If you're doing a crunch, you're bringing the ribs down to the pelvis. Okay, now we want to be training it within a 5 to 30 rep range. As I said, high reps aren't likely to tone you up and build muscle optimally. Obviously, we know that the 5 to 30 reps is the ideal hypertrophy rep range to be able to obviously build muscle, okay, as long as we're taking those sets close to failure. Now, that is the big thing, is making sure that whatever exercises we're doing and those sets that we're doing for that exercise to train the abs, we're taking those sets to a close proximity of failure. So that's super, super important. And then another one is just applying progressive overload. So you don't want to just do 4 sets of 15 crunches. You want to progress at that over time. So you want to add reps over time. So you want to go from 4 sets of 15 to 4 sets of 16, to 4 sets of 17, 4 sets of 18. Okay, you eventually want to increase that demand, which is ultimately going to result in you having bigger, thicker abs. Okay. Now, another thing is that I think that you can keep it super simple. So I've given you 2 super simple exercises here. You don't need to overcomplicate it, and you don't need to do a heap of different exercises. As I spoke about, the main function is spinal flexion, okay? So we don't need to be doing rotations or side bends or planks or anything like that. We need to be, if we're training the six pack, that's fine. You can do those things, but realistically, you're going to be training the obliques, and that's completely fine. You can train the obliques, but if you really want to build that six pack look, okay, you need to be, as I said, training that spinal flexion. So incline crunches is a great one. Okay, most gyms have that sort of decline bench, so you can do your bench on it. You can just do your incline crunches on that. As I said, make sure we're getting that full stretch. Make sure we're squeezing through the abs to bring that ribs up to the pelvis and get that big squeeze, and making sure that we're maintaining that control on the way down. I highly doubt that anyone watching this video, and this is myself included, will be able to do 30 proper reps of incline crunches. If you can do it, I'm very impressed. I definitely can't do it. I think my best is like 22. So the majority of you guys, you'll be able to get months worth of progression by just building up one rep at a time. Instead of going for some exotic exercise, just keep it super simple and do something like that. And the next one up is bench leg raises there, where you want to be making sure you're controlling that downward face, so controlling the legs down, squeezing to the core, really trying to almost tuck that pelvis, so bringing the pelvis off the bench to really get that contraction through the abs, and then controlling that all the way back down. And for that one, I'm lucky to get sort of 16 reps. So as I said, majority of you guys watching probably wouldn't be able to get to that high 30 rep range. So for these two exercises, you're going to have months and months worth of progression to enable you to get big, thick abs. Okay, so just the final thought here, guys, to cover it all up. As I said, if you want to build your abs, you have to be using effective resistance training. I've given you a couple exercises to start there already. Another thing that I want to add on that as well is that you don't need to do a crazy amount of sets either. Okay, sort of 3 to 4 sets per session max, something like a 6 to 8 sets across the week is going to be plenty for you to build your abdominals. And then the second point there is obviously losing body fat by putting yourself in a calorie deficit. As I said, everyone has six-pack abs. It's just the amount of body fat that you're covering it with. Now, if you want a little bit more information on this, I'm not going to go into a deep dive in this video. It will take way too long. So you can go through and watch the video, what to eat to get lean. That's a really good one. I go through sort of what I have and what I refer to my clients. So to give you a really good idea of potentially what you should be eating to get to that lower body fat percentage. And there's plenty of videos on the channel that you can help yourself through where I just sort of discuss calorie deficit. By combining these two, you're going to get the best possible results to make sure you got that nice abs out, six-pack abs for the summertime, or if you have vacation or anything coming up. So as always, guys, hope this has helped. Do all those good things, like, subscribe, share, and I hope to see you in the next one.